Petro, how are you? Volumes.
Audio girl on mute. How do you like that? I was going to say nice guitar collection in the background.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm jumping. I got my 3 computers trying to figure out which one's live, which one's where, which one's what.
I think we've got a couple of my colleagues joining very shortly.
Yeah, I saw Daryl in the other room.
Awesome.
There's Jimmy's in the wrong one.
Jimmy. I just came to say hi to Petro.
Hi, Jimmy.
Hi.
You can stay. Don't listen to Joe.
I have to go present at the same time, but I told everyone to come see Panasonic instead. Like I said, they got the best.
You're too nice. You're too nice. Oh, there's one colleague. Okay. Woo-hoo.
All right, Will, I just made you host, so you can make other people co-hosts or whatever, I think.
Okay.
For presenting and stuff, but you should now be able to give presenting. And I'm gonna jump to Jimmy's and start Jimmy's for him.
Thanks, Joe. Okay, bye. Good luck, Petro.
Thank you. And I think we're just waiting for Daryl, if I'm not mistaken. Is there question for you, Will? Do you know anything about this Zoom platform and polling? I think there's an app that I might want to load here.
That I don't know on here.
Huh, okay. Poll, Holly. I think it might be this one. Ah, it's not letting me do it.
Can everyone hear me? Just out of curiosity.
Yes, sir.
Oh, great.
Yep, we hear you. We hear you loud and clear, my friend. How's everything going so far with this this virtual conference?
It's going good.
Good.
So far, we just got started this morning, but yeah, it's going pretty smoothly.
Awesome.
Where are you based out of, Will?
I'm in LA.
Oh, okay.
I work for Joe at USC.
Okay, great.
Oh, Joe put everybody to work.
Yep, he's good at that.
That he is.
It's okay. I get to work from home today, so my cat's happy. She's been in my lap the whole morning.
Yeah, there you go. Hello, Craig. How are you, sir?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, very well.
Oh, my dog says hi.
Hi, that's okay. That's okay.
Hi, dog.
You
have the
it's
cool
Mr. Finn.
Too.
Yeah, let's see here. Let me. Yeah, he pretty much barks at if like a blade of grass moves the wrong way. So yeah, he was really good. Thankfully, when I was presenting at the last session, so yeah, he's making his voice heard. Yeah. I'm just here to say Panasonic projectors are awesome. I have them everywhere. They don't give me any problems. I hardly think about them, and that's why I love them. So
awesome.
That's that.
We're going to turn that into an advertising campaign. We'd like to be the brand you never think about.
Exactly. I mean, it's they're just great. So
yeah, that actually would work really well.
That marketing would work really well to not maybe not to end users, right? But to us for sure.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. I mean, and you guys are the end users as far as we're concerned. We got to please you so you can please your customers. So, but yeah, you're right. Also works for the way we've been able to successfully, knock on wood, so far navigate supply chain issues. Although I found out last night that those issues are not going away, which is unfortunately, there's just crazy stuff going around worldwide. Nuts.
yeah. So are the displays still back ordered for a while, I guess? Or what's
Some
their
of them are, not all, but some of them are.
Okay.
you know, in the middle of everything last summer, we had a container or two drop to the bottom of the ocean, which also
Mm.
didn't help matters.
Jeez,
Yeah,
yikes.
but we're in pretty good stead, I think, on everything else for the most part.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah, we finally, on the PTZ side, we actually finally caught up fully by end of 2022, which was really, really good, you know, so.
All right, so Will, how much time do you typically want people to give for participants to attend? Like 5 minutes or so?
And I'm muted. Let's see, what time are we supposed to start on this one?
3 minutes.
2:30. So yeah, I mean, this is
Oh,
probably
good, we're early. All right,
Yeah.
fine. Then I'm not worried. I'm like, where's Daryl? Knowing Daryl, he's probably on the phone.
Yeah,
Yeah, we can wait another few minutes and see. People are probably grabbing lunch.
so the attendance has been pretty strong for your virtual event then? It's been pretty good?
Feels like it anyway. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I haven't really been paying attention to the numbers. Have you, Troy?
I try not to pay too much attention to that almost on purpose. I just, I got other things to worry about today, and I'll deal with the numbers tomorrow.
Right, right.
But the conversation has been mostly pretty good. I think we'll probably have at least similar numbers as to what we had last year, if not, better.
Yeah.
So
Oh, good for you. Good for you.
That's awesome. Yeah, I like the AV Tweeps takeover this weekend. That was really interesting.
That was fun.
It was fun. I think one of the best comments that came out of it was the number of people that were saying their employer would not allow them to go to InfoComm this year. And boy, that really speaks to, as a manufacturer, the need to have a better virtual component for InfoComm.
Mhm.
I know one of the people had responded and said, maybe we should start a GoFundMe for these people. But I think in some cases, it's not a matter of budget as much as it is a matter of just can't take time away from the university or the college that you're working at. Would you agree?
I think it's both.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, I think money is probably one of the bigger things. It's kind of interesting being on the West Coast now because I was on the East Coast, and getting to a conference in Orlando was a whole lot easier than trying to get to one in Vegas, especially because you'd kind of get the side eye from management sometimes. You're like, I want to go to Vegas. Really? Oh, gamble. I just want to go to the show. But
Yeah,
no
for us,
problem.
it's almost just as much optics as it is saving money because, like they could afford it. Like we're not in that dire straits, but we are in very, like trying to cut budgets and this and that. So like, well, if we're sending people to this conference in Vegas, like it doesn't look good, even
Yeah.
if it
Mhm.
is valuable and we've done it before. They're like, not this year. So,
Right.
Yeah, and then
Well,
there's
as
always
a
one guy that was in the
manufacturer.
past that went and ruined it for everybody.
mhm.
Yeah.
Well, we had that too, where people went to another conference and all they came back with were pictures of them at a dance club partying and drinking. It's like, why did we send them there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, great. And then,
Yeah, I mean, we're in a similar position to Will at USC. We've got money and we can afford to send people to pretty much any conference, but I mean, there's equitability problems. Not everybody wants to go. So you got to think about that. And then just people having to be at the university, right? You can't, everybody can't drop everything and leave, especially Northwestern's one of the few schools that's still doing quarters, and it's there's no break. 2 weeks tops, and then you're right back into classes. 2 weeks, then right back into it's every time. So there's not CCMC is one of my favorite conferences that I used to go to when I was at Mason. I'll never be able to go to it as long as I'm here because it happens when classes start because of the quarter system.
Wow.
Just having to be on campus and you know, I can't send everybody, right? So it's a rotating kind of thing, right? I can send this person this year, that, you know, that, so everybody kind of gets out there at some point, but
Well, you know, I just keep thinking about it. As a manufacturer, we spend a lot of money on these trade shows. And if Avixa could offer a virtual component to kind of enhance the engagement without nickeling and diming everybody, that might be a really great solution. Because it's a hybrid world right now, at least from what everybody was saying on Twitter on this weekend. Everybody agreed. Genie's out of the bottle.
you know, there were
There's
some great
Daryl.
points made about the virtual conference that you don't really think about with, you know, in terms of accessibility for people with disabilities and things. You can't navigate a show floor in a wheelchair easily. I mean, you know, that's I mean, not maybe, you know, it's not the largest segment of our, you know, the AV world, right? But there's people who have mobility issues and other disabilities that, you know, would benefit from having conferences more virtualized.
Right.
And, you know, this is something, you know, we were trying to do a panel with Kamisha on Black colleges and universities that we're going to move forward, you know, with, just didn't work out at this conference. But, you know, that was something that came up in our discussions there, was that, you know, tribal universities, historically Black colleges and universities, they don't have the funding, right? So there's, you know, creating more inequities, you know, there. So, but yeah, it's your guys' time. So you take, let's roll.
Good. I'm glad to see everybody. So I don't know if you, Troy, wanted to give it a minute or two or whatever. You can kind of jump in, or since we have a smaller group, we can kind of, I know some folks, Jesse, I haven't spoken with you for a long time. I know BC, but I don't know if you want to go around the horn since we have a smaller group and maybe there'll be more. I do have a song I was going to start off with if you guys want to hear this.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yes.
An oldie.
It's cutting it. I think Zoom's cutting it out. I think
Is it
Zoom's
okay?
cutting it
Yeah,
out.
I don't have it
Yeah,
in
they think
music
it's bad.
mode.
Yeah,
It's pick up the pieces because our conversation today is about, you know, putting the pedagogical pieces together. But anyway, I digress. We try and have a little bit of fun when we start. But you're right. I think there's a different setting in Zoom because we were doing that this morning during
Yeah.
coffee, that musical instrument. So I'll prepare that for next time. But do you guys want to go quickly around the horn just to introduce ourselves? And
yeah,
Will,
sure.
you again?
Sure. I'm Will DeWitt. I'm the Learning Environments Manager for USC.
Awesome. Glad you're here.
Troy Powers, AV System Support Lead for Northwestern University and Conference Chair at HETMA. Craig, you want to go next?
Sure. Craig Underwood here at Moravian University in Eastern Pennsylvania, Director of AV Engineering and HETMA Membership Chair.
Kamisha, you want to go next?
Hey, I'm Kamisha Jones. I am the audiovisual technician at Florida International University.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Steve?
Awesome.
No.
Steve
Yeah, I'm here.
Rose?
I just had unmuted. I'm Steve. I'm with Panasonic. I'm a National Business Development Manager for Pro AV and all things ecosystems in your classroom.
Right on. I'll let you guys take over. I think everybody introduced. Oh, BC, you didn't go, did you?
That's fine. Y'all can go
The
ahead.
godfather of HETMA.
That's right. BC who? Hey, BC. Petra, you want to go?
Hi, everybody. My name is Petra Shimunishi, and I'm the Director of Pro AV Solutions for Panasonic.
Jim?
Everyone, I'm glad to be here. I'm Jim Jensen. I'm the category owner, product manager for our PTZ and remote systems.
Awesome. And I'm Daryl Kroll, kind of the liaison for Panasonic in higher ed, and definitely a big proponent of HETMA and all things education. So we can, you know, with this kind of forum, we want to have some conversation. Troy, if you would mind, could I just share my screen when you have a moment?
Yeah, I don't know if I am the host or if Will is. Are you the host, Will?
I am.
Oh,
Yeah.
Will, okay, sure.
All right, I'll make.
I didn't get in the room fast enough, so Joe May will host.
There you go. Now you're co-host.
And again, we're not going to kill you with PowerPoints or anything like that. We just wanted to get conversations started and you know, really hear from you, because that's what this session is all about. But in case you weren't familiar with Panasonic, we do a lot of different things, but our basic conversation for today was kind of putting the pedagogical pieces together and theme of now what? So we've made the Panasonic introductions, and we're excited to be here for the 5th time. But again, just the general, when we were having our conversations to prepare for this session, what would be some of the things that we're hearing from higher education? So to kind of put that framework together for today's conversation is really about, the connected classroom and the pieces that Panasonic brings to the table on that is pro audio, which we can talk about, and PTZ cameras and projectors and displays. And also on our solution side, things like digital signage and lecture capture. So that's kind of the framework, but we can kind of take this conversation in any direction you guys want to go, just to get the synapses snapping. But what we did here is pull together, not a typical classroom, but a classroom with some technologies in, and whether it's the audio or the cameras. In this kind of example, what we can bring to the table are these voice triggered PTZ presets, which makes it a lot easier for more automated classroom, a better learning experience for the students, and obviously less stress for the professors in that classroom. They're not worried about whether their microphone is on or not. So just at a very high level, and then we can kind of open it up to your comments. But if you're not familiar with Panasonic's Pro Audio lineup, we'll talk about that specifically, but we make both analog and now Dante digital audio. And so in this kind of scenario, this is what's allowing us to activate either our gooseneck microphones or our boundary microphones in a classroom. They're expandable, so we could talk about some of the systems that we've put into higher education. But Jim's the expert on our PTZ cameras, so if you had specific questions on the great lineup of our PTZ cameras, utilizing our PTZ control software as well as our auto tracking software. So if it's a single camera or multiple cameras, it kind of helps automate this very complex and large process. And then obviously the projectors in the room. And in case you were not familiar, we also have wireless collaboration systems called Preset. And that's basically where it enables you to plug in via USB, either in from your PC or from a device, and directly into either the display or the projectors. So I know there's a lot on this slide. There's a lot of good things that we've been doing in classrooms for a very long time, but I'll kind of stop with that and see what are you guys struggling with right now of all those bits and pieces that are in the classroom? What are some of the things that are keeping you up at night?
So I guess I'll kick it off. Daryl, kind of what we're seeing is, I think that the faculty have pretty much mastered the camera piece. Like they know how to position the cameras, when to use them, when not to use them. Now they're starting to look more for more of a produced session of class. They're wanting the abilities for those cameras to track easily, to be able to know where they're at in the room, and also to intelligently change between them and a view of the classroom itself, so that remote participants can kind of see the environment of the room, not just focused on the faculty member or whoever is up at the podium or front of the room teaching. Audio quality is always still key, but kind of we're kind of moving more towards they need that produced session as opposed to just statically shooting a camera in one spot of the room.
Right.
If there was a piece of software that could reside on a faculty member's laptop that helps them automate it, would that be preferable, or would you be looking at doing something more built into the camera itself?
So probably the camera itself, because the trick is we've got a design for multiple devices to potentially be the interface for the software codec. It could either be a faculty member's laptop, it could be a built-in Podium PC, it could be a built-in Podium Mac. There could be both a Mac and a PC in a classroom. So it's really a crapshoot as to what the device is that's going to be making that has the soft codec built in, that's going to be making the connection to the camera. So any type of logic or programming that can be built into the camera itself and work directly through that USB piece, or even a separate box that just works through USB, would be helpful.
Anything that we have to ask the faculty member to do once they walk in the room just adds to the difficulty of adoption or being used. Like, anything we can put in the background is preferable.
Anybody else struggling with things out there in the classroom? You said, I think we've gotten accustomed to having cameras in the classroom and, audio. If you, hopefully you have good audio, but if you don't, we certainly could talk about that. But any other struggles that you're seeing? Like you said, well, making that user interface for the professor as easy as possible. And that's why we're kind of using the auto tracking software, the preset PTZ presets for our microphones. So trying to automate it as much as possible, because I think because we've been doing this so long, people kind of have this, oh, this should be, a high production quality. It should look, like a professionally produced piece. And unfortunately, sometimes the classroom may not have the horsepower to do those types of things. Are you guys recording a lot of your classes or lecture capture, or what are some of the things that you're seeing on that front in regards to using Zoom to record classes or other mechanisms?
We record with, we have some faculty who still use Zoom because I don't know why, but we have about, half, maybe a little more than half of our classrooms and equipped with Matrox remote recorders for Panopto. And it's worked pretty well. I mean, I think we have an issue where some of the faculty mistakenly believe they own their lessons and we don't. So that's a little bit of a problem where they, are kind of like, I don't want you recording my lecture. I own that. Well, no, you don't. We own it, actually. So that's been a little bit of kind of an issue, but just working through that. I'm of the opinion that every I'd like to move towards every single one of our classrooms having a remote recorder and every single one of our sessions being recorded, whether the faculty wants it or not. So that's where I'm looking to go. I think it becomes an equity issue if you don't, right? What if, we have a lot of international students here. They don't hear English as well as other people. So that the ability to go back and listen again, that's key. And I think the whole idea of, students not coming to class because it's recorded, I'm sure you're going to get that in limited situations, but you don't pay, at least here, you don't pay $80,000 a year to not come to class. You just don't do that. So
I think if nothing else, the recording piece of the class is not so much as a replacement of the in-class experience. It's a supplement, right? It's something that can be recorded and then thrown up on the LMS at the end of class to help students be able to have that extra piece to refer to when studying. So yeah, I think some of the governance of how the classes and how the attendance works can be, they can mitigate some of the concerns about are students going to actually show up if the class is recorded. But I think it's become a valuable tool. And I know that on our campus, it used to be, you don't record class. That was it. I mean, even though I told faculty for years, if it can be seen, it can be shared these days. Like all a student has to do is prop up a phone and hit record, and guess what? Your lecture is captured whether you want it to be or not. So we've seen an increase of faculty and even events be recorded for, if nothing more than just archival purpose, because now it's cheap and easy to just put a camera in a room with a mic and use a Zoom instance, and you've instantly got lecture capture. Now, is it as produced and polished as like a Panopto offering? No, but it still offers enough quality that it is passable as a lecture capture solution.
And to expand on that too, one of the interesting things I heard from one of our instructors was that she's like, yeah, I always use the lapel mic, even though I don't need it, because, for example, if they're zooming in a classroom, we have like the Shure ceiling array in one, but we also have a lapel mic. She's like, yeah, it sounds okay on the recording, but we found that with the lapel mic, the auto transcription by Zoom was much more accurate with the lapel mic than just using the Zoom mic. So even though, like, to my ear, I'm like, oh, they both sound acceptable, but the software could definitely use the lapel mic more accurately. So we're finding like, okay, well, maybe we should start deploying these more. Like, now we've got a base level of a certain type of audio capability. Let's take it to the next level, because now they're using the transcriptions publishing those on our LMS and allowing the students to go through and just look at the lecture. And heck, the students are viewing subtitles more anyway, too. So the audio feeds into that accessibility piece. So that's something that we are looking to, in the next evolution of, what are we doing in our classrooms? Just adding that additional piece. So
are those classes that you are recording, is everything have closed caption, or is that becoming more that should have closed caption in different cases?
Yeah, I think for accessibility, they really want to have, of course, they want to have closed captioning as much as possible. But also, if you look at just, society, in general, I think everyone's using closed captions more and more. And that's a whole different topic too on in audio post-production. Why is everybody using closed captions? Like, well, the audio mixes are, that's a whole separate debate, which I don't want to get into at this moment because I could talk for an hour about that. But yeah, I think for number one, for me, it's accessibility and being able to automate that transcript to an accuracy level that doesn't require human intervention of someone going back and editing that transcript, which takes time. So, if we can invest in, a quality wireless mic system that's deployable everywhere and we can easily manage and make it accessible, then it just feeds into so many different things that I didn't necessarily think of right off the bat, but the instructors are telling me. So, we just try and hear, what they're telling us they need, and then going from there.
Right.
And how long do you keep your archives, just out of curiosity? Is it a deep archive? Does it have a shelf life of so many months, years, or is that all dependent?
We just deleted all of our stuff that hadn't been moved or accessed since the pandemic. So it was like 3 years we kept it, but it's an arbitrary number. It was whenever, storage, hit where they didn't want to, keep paying for it or whatever. There's no set time.
Yeah, we have a saying on the video side, bits or bucks, meaning, the more you store, the more, it certainly impacts the budget and so on and so forth. So I was curious. I'm having a little bit of connectivity issues, and I know there was some discussion about cameras and you'd like to see more of a produced type of camera that has certain feature sets so that it really doesn't have much interaction or demand on the professor. I can just tell you from a Panasonic perspective, as someone who manages the PTZs, we're looking very closely at that, quite frankly, and really would love your feedback in regards to those attributes that you would like to see built into the PTZ. This is not a sales presentation, but we pride ourselves on a very involved and high level auto tracking. We just do. We put a lot into that, and it requires more horsepower, than most auto tracking systems that we see built in. In fact, most people's auto tracking is nothing more than auto framing, which is different. And we've heard some complaints from people in the field because if it is a challenging condition, whether, it's students standing up, getting in the way, if it's the professor and they have a certain teaching style and they're moving around a lot, or they face their back to the audience, all these type of things, if there's a glare coming off a display, all things that impact auto tracking and its accuracy. So we really pride ourselves on our auto tracking. So to have that built in for Panasonic is we want to make sure we keep it at a level that we're really known for and not simplify it so much that it just becomes another Me Too feature set, that has its own challenges. But we're looking at some other things that I think BC you had mentioned about, even from a produced content standpoint, what about auto switching with cameras? What does that look like? Does it involve audio, right? Because audio becomes a very important part of that produced level of content you're trying to do. So we've made steps with that, with our auto, having audio being able to trigger our presets, but how do we even take that to the next level? So really curious about when you say, a produced session. That really sparks my interest.
Yeah, so I don't want to kind of compare Panasonic products to other products out there, but I will say that one of your competitors in the camera world did release a did release something similar to kind of what I'm talking about, and I talked about it some on one of the higher ed AV podcasts from ISE, but specifically episode 200. So
Yeah, I think I know exactly who you're referring to. I've read the announcements at ISE, and
yeah, I mean that particular product was more designed for the huddle and meeting room, but I can only imagine it's a matter of time until either they or someone else kind of cracks the code and is able to deliver that to larger spaces.
Yeah, I think I'm not, at least from the PTZ category standpoint, there'll be some very interesting announcements forthcoming. But we definitely take the approach of really, because quite frankly, the educational market is so big for us. So to develop, that produced session that you're talking about specifically for the classroom is really where we're honing in our focus, specifically for the education market.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it's probably going to come with a higher price point, but if you target a few of the larger spaces that have more of, I guess, more of a high profile event, or even, larger classes, and it turns out that we get better learning outcomes because students are more engaged and participants are more engaged, I think that kind of adds justification to kind of take on some of those higher price points or do a little more of an in-depth install.
Yeah. I mean, from a strategy standpoint with our PTZs, how I try to approach it is, our PTZs have different feature sets and price points, because everyone's got different budgets. But when it comes from a workflow perspective, we really try to keep that workflow consistent, even amongst our different price PTZs, just to, put it that way. Sure, some of the PZZs, have different feature sets and so on and so forth. But from a workflow standpoint, why can't a mid-level PTZ really have the same workflow as our high-end PTZs is the point. And then let the universities choose which PTZ feature sets would be most applicable for them. So.
Well, since we're talking about that, Jim, and I just wanted to make sure we have good representation, I'll come back to audio here in just a second. And since my was running a little bit slowly, so I was going to show you another example, but I think we kind of get what's happening in the classroom. But Jim, you want to just take a little bit of time and kind of go through the lineup that we have?
Yeah, sure. Love to. And I won't get into the weeds, but just kind of give you an overview so you understand holistically where PTZs are fitting in, our lineup. And we actually make 21 different PTZs when you consider the different colors that they're offered in as well. So we really have a very large family of PTZs, all of which really, quite frankly, we're selling into the educational market space. Sure, other vertical markets that we serve, but very much in the educational marketplace. And actually, Panasonic has, from a PTZ perspective, has been really kind of known for our very high-end PTZs or on a lot of high-profile projects. But the industry came to us and said, look, you're known for your quality, you're known for your innovation. Why not come out with a more entry-level PTZ for people with, certain budget parameters? And so we introduced this past year what we call our HE20 and UE20, an HD PTZ and a 4K PTZ. And those particular PTZs find themselves, as I mentioned, in an entry-level position, but with very much a professional feature set. I mean, they even have tally lights on them on the 20 series. They have, HD SDI if you have a SDI workflow. It has that, a very wide angle of view, 71 degrees. The UE4, the tiny little one, actually has 111-degree angle of view. And in the educational market, it's a great PTZ if a professor is in a lab environment and has something that they're demonstrating on a table or something of that nature, and they need to really capture the full essence of that demo that they're doing without the PTZ getting in the way. So that's where the UE4 falls into place. But one of the things, as to my point earlier, is we have a software called PTZ, not only from a IP setting up standpoint, but also managing them, controlling them, and setting them up. And that PTZ control center applies to all of my PTZs. So even my very high-end PTZ, it integrates it, as well as this entry-level PTZs. But we call the entry-level the Pro Series PTZs, and it's great for small classrooms and huddle rooms. And then we designed the Premium Series PTZs, and this has really been the core for the educational market, where we see the bulk of our sales. And we actually took educators and asked what they'd like to see in a next generation PTZ, and we implemented that in these PTZs. In fact, so professors, right, one of the things that they complained about is if a PTZ makes noise when it moves, it throws off the professor. Students, get irritated by that. So we designed a direct drive PTZ that is the quietest on the marketplace. That's just one example that these mid-level PTs bring to the party, so to say, to the classroom, that is very much education focused, as well as a wide angle of view, actually 74.1. And the 40 and 50 are, as well as the 20 series, are Zoom certified. A lot of classrooms were asking that we have a Zoom certification, and so we did that. I will mention on the 80, what's interesting about that one is we have AR and VR capabilities, as we're hearing about more of that being designed for the classroom. And then we have our high-end PTZs, we call them our Platinum Series. And these are for the larger type of classrooms. Look at, a classroom is not a TV studio, right? The lighting is not perfect, and yet you're looking for the optimal picture quality. And so these particular PTZ has, the highest level of image sensors in them, widest angle of view, and some other ins and outs that really, kind of separate them from the pack. But my point being, it doesn't matter the size of the classroom, if it's a little huddle room, small classroom, intimate setting, or a very large type of auditorium like you see demonstrated here, or your budget. The thing is that Panasonic has a PTZ that fits so many different needs at many different budget levels. So that's just kind of a quick overview, just so you're familiar with, how many PTZs we actually have and some of their capabilities. So.
And coming up on almost 15 years of doing PTZs. So it's been a great opportunity for us to bring this in a house of worship and classrooms and corporate. So it's exciting. Do you guys have any other thoughts? I mean, Jim brought up an interesting point on the AR and VR. Have you guys been tasked with supporting any type of, advanced immersive type learning environments?
Not yet, but that's something that we're kind of working on. We're doing a lot with our academic software development team is doing a lot of work in the VR XR space. Yeah. So I mean, that's kind of where we're moving. I think the idea here is more like we want to develop some things to show the faculty, so then the faculty can come in and say, hey, this is where we want to go, and then that's when it'll be in the classroom. Not there yet, but there's actually I think it might be at 4. There's a panel about that exact thing with one of my colleagues from Northwestern and some other people across the space.
Yeah, when you kind of show that here are some of the tools that you can do this, then they start thinking about, I can do all these other wonderful things. So
exactly.
So there is more discussion about the metaverse in education, and maybe trying to access that as a
yeah, and actually in the XR panel, I got Dr. Messina Morris from Morehouse College, who I think is the first
Oh, wow.
who created a Metaversity, you know, that she's done 28 unique courses, all in virtual reality now. And they've got, I think, 135 courses in total that they've done in virtual reality. So it's a pretty cool program, and there's others like it, but not, you know, they all kind of have their own unique spin, right? They're all a little bit different. Kent State's doing a lot of work in that space, and so is Michigan. So
Mhm, mhm.
We're not.
Yeah, we're
doing-
actually the first PTZ manufacturer to incorporate 3D, which gives the lens positioning and outputs that to those, whether it's Brainstorm or, VisRT or others and stuff. Because we really saw the demand from our customers, whether it's in education, corporate, or production, wanting to use the PTZs for virtual or extended reality, as you said.
All right, let me just share something else here. Just I want to make sure I hit a few of the highlights, but then again, I think this conversation is great. So we were talking about audio, and it's always that quest to improve the audio that's in the classroom. But in case you're not familiar with Panasonic's audio offering, this is really designed for speech. We've been working on this since before 2018, actually, and we brought this to market. We see a lot of activity in higher education, but what's unique about our offering is that it's utilizing the 1.9 gigahertz, so it is future-proof. You're less susceptible to crosstalk and interference. It's easy to use, and it's durable. If you'd like, we were talking about the HETMA approved process, and that is currently being evaluated for the HETMA approved program. But we do have available inventory. Number one, that's huge. But we also have demo systems. So if you want to play around with it, I'll just kind of hit some of the highlights. We have both analog and digital, but basically here, the 2-channel, the 4-channel, the expansion modules. But what's really exciting, and some of you may have seen this at Infocom, is that our new Dante gooseneck and boundary microphones allow us to do some of those types of preset PTZ presets that we were talking about. But the handheld microphone is very rugged, but very light. People are like, oh, it feels too light. But the reality of it is, if you're holding that microphone for an extended period of time, you probably don't want a rock and roll microphone. So, and the same thing with our lavaliers. So if you haven't had an opportunity to check out our pro audio systems, we'd love to get you some of those products to evaluate. And the other thing I like about our system is that these antennas you're utilizing a network cable. So installation is a lot easier and a lot more flexible. So you can adjust the range on these different antennas. And basically, if it's a small room all the way up to divisible and larger rooms, you have a lot of great flexibility based upon the way the antennas work. And just as an example, we've got this in a number of institutions where, as you all do, have multiple rooms very, very close together, but because it's utilizing the DEC technology, it's less susceptible to interference and crosstalk. So I'll pop a couple of links in the chat as we roll along, but I wanted to just bring this up. And one of the other interesting conversations we were having, Petra, you want to talk a little bit about what we're doing with Zoom in regards to some of our audio products?
Sure. We actually just got a partnership going with a division of Zoom that designs and installs Zoom rooms for clients. So bet you didn't know that, but Zoom does have their own little division that does Zoom room design, Zoom room installation, and they're switching all their jobs over to Panasonic wireless microphones, partly because of availability, partly because of performance. And also our new QSys module, I think, was one of the things that really swung them, because a lot of universities seem to be migrating over to QSys, which, by the way, last night I was looking for a Crestron processor, and I could not believe the information people were giving me. Like, if you order now, it's what, 2024 now? That's insanity. So that brings me to a question that's on my mind for everybody in this room. What are some of the more important concerns you've got for 2023? Do you think the supply chain stuff is generally over, or what's your read on it?
I think supply chain's still kind of in the mix, but think for the most part, a lot of folks, it's been good because we've diversified our portfolio some. Like, we're still sticking with our standard infrastructure, but as far as the peripheral devices that we used, we don't use those anymore. We've changed manufacturer. We work things around, and it's also pushed us to go towards more software-based solutions, probably faster than we would have otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, I'd reiterate what BC said. I think it's still kind of going to be an issue, but you know, it's been an issue this long, and we've gotten by. Like, we'll continue to just work around the problem. I mean, you know, we're a Crestron shop, and you know, Crestron processors are difficult to get their hands on, but you know, I can run a CP4N program on the old CP3N that's already there, and it works just fine. So I can continue with most of my installations and just have one piece of gear to swap out with minimal, you know, impact later. So I mean, just kind of dealing with the supply chain issues and moving forward anyway.
So what do you see as some of the biggest challenges you're anticipating for this year and even beyond this year? Big question.
I mean, my biggest issue, I think, is staffing, right? Staffing, and not even that, you know, just finding good staffing. But that's not really what you're asking me. I think I'm having our biggest pain point right now is, you know, we give the faculty an opportunity to use a laptop or an in-house PC to connect to Zoom. And there is not a great reliable USB 3 switcher that I have found that's been really, you know, successful at doing that easily. That's our big pain point. And it's not just cameras. You know, I want to bring in, you know, the visualizer, you know, the document camera, you know, one or more in-room cameras, and then audio too. You know, so it's like an auto switcher that's going to switch cameras doesn't help me if it's auto switching off of the audio that's coming into the same thing, right? So it's
Right.
Switching over USB 3 is a problem. Also extending USB 3.
Oh, I
absolutely
didn't even
Pretty
think
much the
about
only way
that,
to
but
do it
yeah.
is through fiber, which is expensive.
Yeah.
Anybody played around with the Dante AV yet as a kind of backbone standard for both audio and video?
I've played with it at home, just, you know, a little bit just to play with it. I think it's really interesting, man. If it works as well as Dante works, I mean, that's a game changer. But you know, that's one of those things. I'm all wait and see. You know, I'm not gonna jump on that bandwagon yet.
I think Dante AV is going to wind up taking over, just because, I mean, everybody already runs Dante Audio. So you already have the infrastructure, you already have the familiarity with how to configure and set up their devices. And you just throw video on top of it instead of having a whole separate standard for your video. And really, there's only one other semi-open standard out there, NDI.
I was going to ask,
that hasn't really gone anywhere.
Yeah.
is anyone using NDI or NDI HX? Just curious.
We did a little bit of NDI at Mason, but not really here.
Yeah, it's just, I've used it at home. I haven't deployed it anywhere, and their products are still limited even after all this time.
Yeah.
Which is why I think Dante, once they get their products and partners going, then it'll take off.
Have there been some significant changes since last year in regards to deployment or support of classrooms? Because you keep adding more and more technology other than staffing, Troy, that you had mentioned. Are there other things that have popped up that maybe weren't happening to you 2 years ago or during the pandemic?
I think the faculty knows a little bit more, and that makes it more challenging in a lot of ways. You know, because now they have their kind of own ideas on how things should work and how things should look, right? So I mean, I think that's probably the bigger challenge coming out of the pandemic, but yeah, I can't, yeah, that's all I've got. I thought I had something, but I lost it.
No, that's good.
Yeah, I don't really have too much new it's kind of nice that now they're just expected to know how Zoom works.
Right.
Even though
Zoom-
some still don't, but that's a whole other issue. But at least we don't get pushback from the higher ups and stuff just because they expect them to know. Like it's kind of on them.
Right.
Instead of us getting yelled at for deploying something that they don't know how to use. It's like, well,
So we're kind of seeing the opposite where we're getting more and more requests for, hey, I've got a person coming in via Zoom. Can somebody stop by and make sure everything's set up correctly? I'm like, we've been doing this for 3 years now. It kind of feels like maybe this should now be a self-service activity.
Yeah,
well,
we're getting
we
the
get a
exact
lot of
same.
those, but usually it's more safety blanket than actual helping.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. You know, usually they do all the work and you just stand there and watch, but you know, that's manpower, right? That takes people into that classroom. They can't be doing something else.
So maybe more remote monitoring or management would be helpful. I mean, are you guys using the Fusions or other control systems or asset management systems that are out there? How do you guys do that?
I've had this conversation with you before, Daryl, but a vendor agnostic management system would change the industry and make whoever came up with it very, very rich. So
Yeah, the thing I hate hearing is, well, we've got an API. Well, that means I've got to go beg my counterpart for some of his programming time to get all the stuff integrated, and then they've got to build it themselves. And it would have been easier if they just did it instead of trying to shoehorn somebody's stuff into other people's stuff. And
Right.
but yeah,
Anybody try to use Chat GPT to do that?
that's an interesting thought. Yeah, let's I don't know. Let's try that.
I would love to try that because every time I try to log on to it, it's full and I keep getting kicked back on it. So
somebody.
You got to try it like 1 a.m. That's the best time. Yeah, 1 a.m.
He's always up. He's 24/7.
yeah, I'll just make extra coffee and we'll make it work. Put some Red Bull in my coffee and see what happens.
I have to go look. Somebody in the higher ed AV Slack did that. Trying to tie, I can't remember if it was Java or Python or something into something else. I can't remember. Apparently it worked out fairly well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, on my
it's a lot
little
of remote
restaurant
stuff.
project, I tried it last night with not so great results, but I am thinking it's going to get better and better and better, and that could change the game for all these APIs out there for integration frameworks. Because once you get AI to be able to do it, if you have a very well published API in the net, it should just very easily be able to mine that and put the values in where they need to be.
That would be nice. We use Crestron Fusion and X panels and stuff. The trick for me, and one of the reasons I like X panels is because I run the student support desk. And so I need to be able to restrict things because they don't need to be going clicking through all the Fusion stuff. That's just asking for someone to click the wrong thing and screw everything up. I need, very simple tools, but that they can pull up, get to it, fix the problem without having to send somebody running, across campus, which as soon as we send somebody out from the office, that's 5-10 minutes of the teacher's waiting.
The X panels are a great training tool for the faculty too. Because I can watch what they've done in the classroom and talk them through it, and then that saves that call next time. So hopefully, I mean, it usually doesn't, but you'd like to think it would.
You can teach a man to fish, but you can't teach him to touch a control panel correctly.
Do you envision that there may be a day where these control panels may not be needed in the classroom?
I mean, it's hard to do. I think in a simple classroom, you can do a lot with occupancy sensors and things like that, right?
Right.
But in more complex classrooms, you'll never. I don't with the current technology, I don't see how. I mean, it would take a lot to kind of bring everything together to be able to automate it all.
You also need some kind of an override for when stuff gets off and you've got to go fix a room and it turns out that the whatever's gotten the wrong state and you've got to reboot it, or you need to go through and click off, click back on to get it to reconnect to whatever. That happens a lot.
Yeah.
And voice control, I don't see that happening. We've got it and it works, but no one likes using it and it's awkward.
I've got a bunch of electric controls built. Well, it's not really my program is for my old house now, but it doesn't. If it hears you wrong or anything, Josh AI. I need to buy Josh AI is what I need to do.
Yeah, I've
Better.
got a bunch of Alexa at the house. I love it just so I can turn off and on lights without having to get up and stuff. But I mean, it takes 2 or 3 times sometimes, and you don't want to be doing that in front of people.
No. Yeah, I mean, anything you can do to limit, something not working the first time for the faculty, because the last thing they want is to look dumb up there, because none of us want to look dumb up doing so, in front of a bunch of people. It's embarrassing, right? That's the last thing you want. So
You never want that faculty member feeling like they've got 30 sets of eyes staring at them and there's nothing they can do to fix the problem.
yeah.
Good point. Hey, we've got a little bit of time left. I was just going to share a couple of other things with you guys, and definitely want to keep the conversation rolling. I know BC has had some exposure to this, but let me show you this real quickly. At ISE, we showed some new product, and I wanted to share that with you here. And so talked about this during the HETMA approved session. And BC, what did you think about, let me get there. The new ultra short throw projector.
I liked it a lot. It was very impressive, very good quality. And it's interesting to see this style of display technology, especially when you tie them together for a 21:9 aspect ratio. That was really, really cool to see.
Good. And we do have some engineering samples in the US. So if you guys want to take a look at that and kick the tires, but exactly, we've never really had this kind of an ultra short throw that's specifically designed for classroom environments. And it is all laser. So again, just continues to round out the laser side of things. We wanted to, I don't know, just to quickly touch on some of the displays. Everything is in that second generation of a CQ-E2 or an EQ2 or an SQ2, but just to give you the flavors of the different displays that we have, whether you need 24/7 or if you need the media player built in or a little bit different brightness and things like that. But from a digital signage perspective, do you guys want to talk a little bit about what your campuses are doing from digital signage?
Bright sign players for the most part.
Okay. But
Yeah.
do you have to, are you managing it, or is it marketing, or how does it work on each of your campuses?
We manage them via SLAs. We don't manage like central. Northwestern doesn't have any central. It's all department based.
Okay.
So we manage them based on SLAs and don't really love doing it. So
We're
When you
bright
say
sign,
managed,
we've
are you
got-
creating content also, or are you?
No, we don't
Oh,
create
okay.
content, and typically we don't load the content either. We just manage them if they break.
Got it.
Yeah.
Will,
Yeah,
did
we're
you say
bright sign.
breaking?
We manage them. We've got somebody that does graphics for them, but then there's also some that are but that's more like campus wide. There's other departments that manage their own, but it's mostly glorified PowerPoints,
Yeah.
just static slides. We don't really do video or audio, or even though we could.
Or like-
No triggered
yeah.
alerts on campus if you've got bad weather or an emergency situation.
We have a few panels that are built like that, but mostly that's because we had panels there for emergency, like the fire alarm map and things were on this digital panel.
Oh,
And the faculty said, hey, why can't we use this for digital signage too? So it was kind of in place before. None of the actual digital signage installations have that.
I think ours are tied in, so we could do for like active shooter or anything, but I'm not sure how that's set up.
You should. I mean, that's a way to get EHS money. You start talking to people about active shooter money and emergency services. You get that EHS money. You don't have to take it out of your budget.
Yeah.
yeah, let me tell you, it's $1 billion over the next 3 years. It's an interesting value prop.
And
But,
it's,
you know,
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, last year we had asked our higher ed advisory council if they were getting a lot of requests from security for tying in the AV ecosystems into the security ecosystems, not just for digital signage, but also for, viewing PTZ camera feeds within a particular classroom if there was an incident. And the resounding response was no, which I found to be quite surprising. So I'd like to ask the question again. Is anybody talking with you about, hey, can we use this PTZ camera in the classroom to view the feed if something happens in the classroom, or tie in the audio video system and output the audio of what's going on in the classroom if there is an emergency?
Nobody's brought that up to us at this point. But I mean, I'd be surprised if something happened if they didn't pretty quickly come to us, right? I mean, I think, we have that capability, and I think most, like our CIO, up to our CIO understands that we have that capability. So I imagine if there was some sort of an active shooter or hostage situation or something crazy, we could, get that to them. But yeah, nobody's approached us. Now we did have issues at Mason where the fire marshal was requiring us to tie in the fire system to our panels to mute audio systems for the fire alarm, but nothing security wise.
Yeah, I think it's mostly just security not thinking about it because they're not very AV savvy. Generally, DPS, they kind of want things to work and be bulletproof and don't want to mess around. They've got their security camera system.
Mhm.
Like we've got cameras in all the classrooms already. And so they just use that.
So I don't think
we can tune into all the cameras, or we've got the QSys set up so we can listen to every classroom, but nobody's ever asked for it.
Yeah, I don't think we have a lot of cameras in the classrooms, our security wise. I think they're mostly there outside of the classrooms. But I think, without, the thing recording all the time, it's pretty limited in its use case there, right? I mean, you have to be like an active situation is the only time that it would work, and thank goodness that, it's common enough, but it's not that common that it's, we're thinking about that, I think, so.
I'm going to pop another link in the chat. We just released a new case study with the University of St. Thomas. So that's some interesting things as Petra was talking about, the lean or the funding that may be going into security. How do we pull all these pedagogical pieces together? So, there's a lot more coming out on that. We have a new higher education ebook that will be published here shortly. So we'll keep you posted on that. But in like the last 5 minutes or so, what else would you like to see from Panasonic that we can help you, go through and plan and provide, an improved or better student learning achievement?
Good question. I mean, monitoring tool, that I think that's a big one. You guys kind of breached that subject at Infocom a little bit. So that's, I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I'll echo what Troy says. Anything that we can help with remote monitoring, especially because we have limited budgets and limited staff for that.
And I think I saw that you have, are you guys partnering with QSys, the QSys platform? You have some QSys modules, things like that. So yeah, just the ability to plug into either QSys, Crestron, whatever easily, so we can then kind of pick and choose the info. That's super helpful.
Sure. I know I've been with Panasonic now 13 years, but one of the best kept secrets on our projectors is we have Crestron inside, right? So when you're, in something called emulation mode. So if you take a non-Crestron projector down, you have a control system, you can put in a Panasonic projector and put it into emulation mode, and it will do the majority of those types of that functionality. But same thing with our displays, but you're absolutely right, having that more agnostic approach to, plugging and playing new technologies coming into the classroom should make your lives a lot easier.
Yeah, and that Crestron connected functionality, I use that all the time, and specifically the Panasonic implementation of that has been extremely good, especially when I compare it to some competitors. So when I did put that under stress test to see, does this work? Does it reconnect? If I unplug it and plug it back in, power cycle glitch, whatever, does it come back and still work? And it does, like every time, which is great. So
Mhm.
that's been a real lifesaver to us. So, not to be a Panasonic salesperson, but it's been very helpful. So I like to give credit where credit's due.
Thank you. And in
Thank you.
those
We
rare
will inform
cases,
the team.
in those rare cases where let's say that module isn't in there, we've had situations where we've actually built some modules for somebody that had a 12-year-old 3M projector or something crazy like that. So most of the tables are in the projectors, but there have been like 1% of the time, less than that actually, where we might have to do some tweaking on the programming, which is an option as well. So, but glad to hear that, Craig. Any other last thoughts or comments? We definitely appreciate everyone's participation in this session today, and it's been a great conference. So thank you to BC and Troy and Will and you guys. It's you're yet again pulling together one of the best damn virtual conferences out there.
Yeah, thank you.
I can take absolutely zero credit for it. Troy has knocked it out of the park like he always does.
Thank you. I don't think I don't have anything else to ask. I think you give me a bunch to think about, right? We're currently testing those Dante microphones, and I like them. So, see.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank
We'll
you.
see you in a little bit.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks all.